Hi everybody, this is Refresh and I am here to take a look at the Jace Ingenious Mind-Mage Planeswalker deck from Ixalan for Magic the Gathering. The text on the back says you are to outwit your opponent with deception and elusive mind magic. The contents include a 60 card deck, 2 Ixalan 15 card booster packs, a deck box, a strategy insert, and a magic quick reference card. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we have inside. Here is our Jace Ingenious Mind-Mage Planeswalker card. It's just a little bit bent. Jace is a 6 mana Planeswalker that starts with 5 loyalty, and his abilities are +1 draw a card, +1 untap all creatures you control, and -9 gain control of up to 3 target creatures. It's not bad, very simplistic, but for a Planeswalker deck Planeswalker, not bad. Here's the deck box with some cool Jace artwork and his name emblazoned in blue. This is the first Jace deck in the Planeswalker deck series. Inside we have our deck. We have 2 packs of Ixalan, just a little bit squished, but so far intact. We have our quick reference guide. And the quick reference guide is pretty typical, dating back to Kaladesh. And it has some information on what the different parts of the card means and how to cast spells, as well as information on how to set up the game, what your objective is, and a guide to how the turns work. This is not going to help those people who do not know how to play Magic or have not otherwise learned, but if you've learned how to play Magic, I guess you can keep this at your side to just do the check marks on making sure that you're following each turn phase appropriately. That said, I don't think it's that useful versus just having somebody teach you how to play the game. As a reference goes, this is mediocre. Here is our strategy insert. Alright, we have just a tiny bit of information about Jace here instead of the story that we'd get previously. Then we have just a little bit of information on how to play the deck. This is incredibly generic, and it tells you basically that you're playing a Merfolk deck, but there's no explanation of any of the cards aside from Jace, and the strategy here is incredibly thin, and so I would hardly call this a strategy insert more than just a giant advertisement, which is what is all over the backside of this. It does fortunately give you a little bit of more information on 3 of the mechanics that you're going to find inside this deck, but that is not a whole lot of information. Even the Planeswalker space is not used to give you rules on how to play Planeswalkers, but it redirects you to a website. And so I'm a bit disappointed at how they scaled down this strategy insert. There is no deck list here, and they've actually made the information on playing the deck worse somehow, as well as removing the information on how to improve the deck. But we'll put that aside for now and see how the deck looks. Alright, one of the rares that we get here is Herald of Secret Streams, which is a 4 mana 2/3 Merfolk warrior, and it has the ability that creatures you control with +1/+1 counters on them can't be blocked. So hopefully there is a clear +1/+1 counters Merfolk sub-theme here. We also have the Fleet Swallower, which is a 7 mana 6/6 fish creature, and whenever Fleet Swallower attacks, target player puts the top half of his or her library rounded up into his or her graveyard. So it is a finisher of a sort, a little bit of a dumb finisher, but a finisher nonetheless, and it has the secondary capacity to completely mill your opponent as well, although that mill gets worse and worse with each attack. Jace's signature rare is Grasping Current. For 5 mana, you get a sorcery that says return up to 2 target creatures to their owner's hand, so it is a bounce spell, and then you get to search for Jace, put in your hand, and shuffle. There's some weird sorting going on here with these cards being separated from each other. Jace's signature uncommon is Jace's Sentinel. You get a 1/3 for 2 mana Merfolk warrior. As long as you control a Jace Planeswalker, Jace's Sentinel gets +1/+0 and can't be blocked. So a fairly mediocre card. And then Jace's signature common appears to be Castaway's Despair. It is a 4 mana enchantment aura that says enchant creature. When Castaway's Despair enters the battlefield, tap enchanted creature. Enchanted creature doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. This is a pretty common way of blue having removal in the common slot, so it's not a bad card. Obviously there are better cards because this effect is usually 3 mana, but it's a form of removal. This deck seems okay. The Merfolk synergies do appear to be there, so there does seem to be something that this deck is trying to do. But we will play this deck and get back to you with my thoughts. So I've had a chance to play with this deck a bit, and I have some thoughts. First of all, Jace's deck here is a Merfolk deck primarily. As a Merfolk deck, it actually works pretty well. There is a lot of synergy between the huge variety of Merfolk cards that you're given, not only in terms of cards like Humana Speaker getting +1/+1 as long as you control another Merfolk, but also in terms of there being a +1/+1 counter theme as well. The Jungle Delver does +1/+1 counters, the Shapers of Nature does +1/+1 counters, the Vine Shaper Mystic does +1/+1 counters, the River Herald's Boon also adds +1/+1 counters, and the Herald of the Secret Streams, which is one of the deck's rares, also has a bit of +1/+1 counter synergy going on. So I think it actually has a great deal of synergy from the 4-drop slot and down specifically. I really like that about this deck. There is a consistent, coherent theme here, except for the 2 air elementals and the Fleet Swallow. Now I understand that these act as some sort of finisher or haymaker for the deck, but they don't really have much in common with anything else the rest of the deck is doing, and so they feel really out of place. I would have rather had more Merfolk in these spots, or even just get rid of the 5 and 6 drops and just go straight Merfolk all the way down the line. Put some of the Merfolk Lords in this deck, or put some of the other Merfolk on this deck, like the one that creates an additional Merfolk when it enters the battlefield. That would have been a lot more thematically engaging than these random other creatures that, yes, mechanically they do hold a place in trying to be finishers, but they don't really feel like it's along with the rest of the theme of the deck. And that's the other major problem with this deck, is that Jace Ingenious Mind-Mage has pretty much nothing to do with the rest of the deck. The deck tries to add a little bit of connection with the cards that are specifically connected to him in terms of the Castaway's Despair and the Jace's Sentinel, but honestly, there is zero mechanical connection in his cards, like draw a card, untap all creatures controlled. These are not things that have anything to do with what the Merfolk are trying to do. There are no +1/+1 counters here, and that makes this deck not feel thematically coherent. So I have that as a problem with this deck. The other issue that I really have with this deck, in addition to like everything here not really connecting with everything here, is that as an Ixalan deck, this is actually missing the Merfolk's major mechanic in Explorer. That is one of the signature elements of what makes Merfolk Merfolk. And Merfolk, in particular, have been shining in Constructed specifically due to this mechanic and its relationship with the Wild Growth Walker. And so the fact that this signature mechanic, which also provides +1/+1 counters, the fact that that's not in the deck really hurts the concept of this being an Ixalan deck. This really could just be some random Merfolk deck with Jace on the cover, and you couldn't mechanically say that this is Ixalan. There's nothing here that specifically makes this Ixalan. There's just Merfolk and +1/+1 counter synergies, which are pretty common in many sets. And so that is the other disappointing thing, the fact that there is not a lot of coherence between Jace and Merfolk, because that didn't really happen in the story, and between the set itself and the mechanics of the deck. The deck plays pretty well. I mean, the synergies between the Merfolk work really well together, but I still can't get myself to like it, because unlike past sets, this is mechanically unconnected to the set. Yeah, it's a fun enough deck to play, just because of the Merfolk synergies, but if you're wanting to get this because of the Jace deck, I think it's going to be disappointing. If you're wanting to get this because it's an Ixalan deck, it's going to be disappointing. You just have to enjoy this for being a pre-con Merfolk deck with Jace and some random other, expensive cards thrown into the mix. And that is what I think about the Planeswalker deck for Jace in Ixalan. Let me know what you thought about this deck in the comments below yourself. Do you have any of the same problems? Do you enjoy this deck? If you found this video helpful, hit the like button. If you'd like to see more such videos, hit subscribe. This was Refresh. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.